Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Simple Knit podcast. My name is Eleanor. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Simple Knit Co, and here on YouTube where I share with you all of the things that I'm currently knitting. If this is your first time checking out the podcast, welcome. It's really nice to meet you, and as always, hello to all of my returning viewers. It's always great to catch up with you again. So I'm here. I've got quite a few finished objects to share with you this week actually. I've been busy knitting. It's been a very weird few weeks here. I'm in Brisbane, Australia. We've had some pretty significant flooding on the east coast of Australia the last few weeks. So it's been, I've lived in Brisbane most of my life and I've never ever seen rain like that before. So I'm fine. All of my family's fine. Where we live is quite high, so we're very lucky, but the cleanup is definitely still going on. So it's been a pretty stressful few weeks around here. A lot of things kind of up in the air. So I have been knitting a lot, which I think most of us do when things get a little bit hairy. So I have quite a few things to share with you today. So I think I will just jump in. So the first finished object I have is actually what I'm wearing. It is my flying home top. So this is a pattern by Ainhoa Berkenbaeva, who is Mama's Teddy Bear Designs on Instagram, and it's this really cool tank top with this really fun pleat detail on the front. I'll just come forward a bit so you can see it a little bit. I did knit it in black yarn, so it's a little bit hard to show on camera, but that's the front of it. Oh great, got fluff on it. There we go. There's the front of it, and yeah, it's just a really lovely tank top. The fit is gorgeous. I knew it would be like just a nice tank top, but I love the fit, and the pleats really help with the kind of structure and shape of the top. So as I said, this is Flying Home by Mama's Teddy Bear Designs. I knit it in Knit Picks. Can't think of anything today and I have it written down literally right in front of me. It's Knit Picks Lindy Chain, which is a linen and cotton blend in a chainette structure, which is a really great yarn to work with. I've used it for a few garments before, and it always makes a really nice garment. I really like this yarn. I knit the third size, I think. Yeah, I did. I knit the third size and I used all the recommended needle sizes. I made it exactly to pattern. The only thing that I did differently was didn't think about this before I started recording. So the only things I did differently were in the pattern it has you do an I-cord edging on the around the armhole increases. I just did a slipped stitch selvage over this part of the pattern as I went, and so then I didn't end up picking up and doing the I-cord edging because I didn't feel like I needed it. And if you can avoid doing an I-cord edging, it's a little bit tedious, as you will see with another project that had a lot of I-cord. So the straps are great. I just attached them on the front and the back, but along this edge I just did a slipped stitch selvage, so that gives a really nice smooth finish. It looks really finished. It doesn't look like it needed anything else. And for the side seams, so it has you knit the kind of the front and then the back in the pattern. What I did was I knit the front piece, and then when I did the back piece, so that I didn't have to seam it at the end, which it's black yarn, so everything's a little bit more difficult on the eyes. So what I did is when I started the back, I worked out, it says like in the pattern whether you're on the right side or the left side of the garment, which helps. So I just picked up on whichever side you started from, and so instead of casting on, I just picked up the stitches along the edge of the front piece, and then I worked the back as per the pattern, and then at the end I just picked up the stitches on the other side of the front, and I did a 3 needle bind off to join the two pieces together. I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, just put them down below. But for some reason in my mind, picking up the stitches and then doing a 3 needle bind off was less of a hurdle than having to do 2 like mattress stitches or whatever on either side. And as I'm sure most of you know, sometimes you'll have a project finished and all it needs is some seaming, and it will sit for weeks, maybe more, just waiting to be seamed, because even though it doesn't take that long, it's just a bit of a mental hurdle that I think most makers experience, that final stage that isn't really fun. But if you do it, it's over really quickly. But yeah, so because I really wanted the finished garment, so I tried to make as few hurdles for myself as possible, and I really like how it worked out. Doing that, picking up the stitches on one side and doing a 3 needle bind off on the other side, created basically the same sized seam. I'm just feeling inside, and they feel basically the same. I would have to really look closely to work out which one was the cast, which one was the pickup, and which was the bind off. But yeah, kind of a similar sized, similar feeling seam, so it's nice and symmetrical. But yeah, I love this garment. I think it's really cute. I wear a lot of neutrals, so black always fits really easily into my wardrobe, and yeah, I'm just so happy to be able to wear it. The only thing with this yarn is, like, as you saw before, any speck of dust, any bit of fluff in your house will end up on the garment. I'm sure if you have pets, any bit of hair will end up, but you know, it is what it is. So I really love it, and I'm really happy with this finished garment. So I also now have 2 hats to share with you. Just looking at them because they're right here. The first one here, it looks ridiculous because it is a fingering weight hat in 2x2 rib, but it does stretch out to the size of a normal human head. So this pattern is the Hipster hat by Petite Knit. It is a pattern I've knit before. I really love it if you're looking for just a straightforward 2x2 rib hat. This is really great. It has, I think, 4 sizes in the pattern. So I knit the 3rd one, which is called Woman, which was for a 53 to 57 centimeter head circumference. It's really stretchy though, because it's 2x2 rib, so it's pretty flexible. And this yarn that I used was the full-size skein from my Moonrise Yarn Co. advent calendar last year, and it's this really beautiful, like, purpley grey base with just rainbow speckles, and I think it's really, really lovely. And I've really wanted to have a pattern that was really just a showcase for this yarn, and I think this pattern, having it as a hat, is a really great way to show it off. So yeah, I once again knit the hat exactly as to pattern. I used the recommended needle size, I believe, which is a 3.5mm needle. And yeah, this is just a great hat pattern to have, I think. I love the crown decreases are really lovely. It sits really nicely on your head. You can just kind of roll up the cuff and just shove it on. I won't do it today because otherwise I spend the rest of the podcast fussing with my hair. But you can just shove it on. It's really nice and compact, so you can just put it in your pocket or in your bag, and if it gets cold or a little bit rainy, you have a nice little hat. So yeah, I love this pattern. This yarn is just really lovely, and this was really great handbag knitting because most of it is just a tube of 2x2 ribs, so you can just pop it in your bag or in your car or whatever and have just on the go knitting. So that is my first finished hat. I don't really have anything else to say other than I really like it and it's great, and I think this is a really nice pattern. So that is the Hipster hat. And the other finished hat that I have is the Quadri by Michelle Wong. This is a very popular hat pattern from a number of years ago. It's just got this really beautiful cable detail, and this is such a fun hat to knit. So I made this in De Revram Natura Juliette base in Poivre Blanc, which I believe means white pepper, and it's one of their undyed colorways. So it's just this beautiful creamy white color, which I think shows the cable really beautifully. So this is, as I said, an amazing pattern. It's very popular and has been for many years for good reason. I think it has charted and written instructions, but I just use the chart, and it's great because the chart goes all the way from like cuff to top. So you just have like one instruction thing to go through, and you do it and it's done. So it's very straightforward to make. It is written for either a DK or a worsted-y kind of weight yarn, I think for a worsted. So it's a really great pattern for gift knitting as well. You could easily, without too much strain, knit this in a couple of evenings, and it looks really effective, but it's really fun and engaging to knit as well. I knit the medium large. There's two sizes. I knit the larger size, which is it's quite roomy on me. If I wanted a really like tight like pullover, and I could get away with the smaller size, basically is what I'm trying to say there. But yeah, I knit the medium large so it's nice and slouchy, and yeah, use the recommended needle size once again, because apparently, well, I mean, it's a hat. Who only, you know, the most virtuous of us are checking our gauge on a hat. So I've knit this pattern before. I would definitely knit it again. So I'm just seeing all of my own hair that I have knit into this hat, which is a beautiful design feature. It's a really great hat pattern. It makes a really comfy, cozy hat, and yeah, as I said, great for gift knitting and great just to have for yourself. I've already, even though it is like today, it's still really hot. We have had some chilly days here in Brisbane, like Brisbane cold, not real world cold. So I have already gotten some wear out of this, and I love it. So that is the Quadri by Michelle Wong. And I have one more finished object to share with you, which is a very exciting one. Something a little bit different for me, and I think I'd only just started this last time I podcasted, so I don't think I've shown it to you. So this beautiful angel is the Luminaria shawl by Lindsay Fowler, and it's a pattern that's designed to use Advent minis. So I used a selection of 10 colors from my Moonrise Yarn Co Advent calendar. I just kind of went through and selected the kind of reds and blues kind of families of colors. So there's a bit of green and orange in there. But yeah, I went through and selected a selection of 10 colors that I thought looked really great together. And yeah, I knit this up. This was such an addictive pattern to work on. So all of the color work is done with mosaic knitting. So you're only holding one color at a time, which is perfect for me, for someone who doesn't really knit color work. It's very straightforward. And once you kind of get the hang of it and done a couple of repeats, it's pretty easy to work out where you're at in the pattern. So the pattern is just charted. They aren't written instructions, but I think this would be a great introduction to reading charted patterns if you've never worked from a chart before, because you're working with like color blocks, it's really easy to work out where you are in the pattern, and you can kind of see from the rows below you what you need to be doing, which ones you need to be slipping, which ones you need to be knitting. So if you've never worked from a chart before, I think this would be a really great first time chart reading pattern. It's really, and it just is such a stunning effect. So I did make a little bit of a modification to the pattern. So, the other thing before I talk about that, because as I said, I don't usually knit color work, so the thought of having to weave in like 20 million ends was not very fun. So if you go on YouTube, Stephen West has a method called the Weave in Stephen method for weaving in your ends as you go. It's really straightforward. It's one of those things you think, oh, that's really obvious, why didn't I think of that? But that's kind of the genius of Stephen West. Everything's like a lot easier than you think it's going to be. So I used that method. I don't know why I keep holding it up, it's just so pretty. I used that to weave in my ends as I went, and look, it's really great, it's really secure. I'm having a look along the sides, and yeah, it looks, even on the other side, you can't really see where all my ends are. So thank you, Stephen West, for that one. A lot of people talk about that I don't think it's anything new to anybody, but it was new to me because I don't usually knit this style of project with a lot of ends. So yes, I did modify this pattern a little bit, and it was a little bit of a self-inflicted drama. So the pattern does have a lace border that it does have a couple of little color stripes in it, but it's mostly just lace. And this is already pretty like statementy for my wardrobe and style. Like this is quite bright and like a lot more fun than what I usually wear. I usually dress like a goth skateboarder or something. So it's I knew if it had the lace on it, it would feel a little bit too fancy for me, and that would stop me from wearing it because it would feel like it needs to be like an outfit rather than just a shawl that I can wear anytime. So I decided to omit the lace border. Quite a few people have done that. I mainly took, in the end, my inspiration from Candace of Transitory on Instagram. I love her Instagram, and she's knit this shawl, and I kind of just mimicked what she had done, but originally it did not look like this. So the I haven't even talked about the grey yarn. So the grey yarn is leftovers that I had in my stash. It's from Fibersmith, which is a yarn shop in Melbourne, and it's her alpaca linen silk hand dyed. This was a naturally dyed colorway that she did a number of years ago. She doesn't do this color anymore, but she does still have this base. It's probably my favorite yarn base ever, and Leslie's colors are just beautiful. Anyway, I had like a ton of this left from another project that I'd done, and I thought it would be just a nice neutral to have with all the colors. So I thought I had more than enough yarn for the project, but I got to the end of this last repeat and I just didn't have very much of the grey left. So I did like a couple of rows of garter, and I don't think I have enough left for the I-cord, which was a bummer, but I just want to finish it now. So what I did was I took two of the colors that were kind of used or have most of the colors from all of the yarns in them. So it was this one, which is like this red and blue speckled one, and then this color here, which is it has like orange and dark blue and almost black speckles in it. So those two colors, within them it kind of has all of the tones of the shawl. So I did a striped I-cord bind off kind of right after where this last color is. So, and it was nice. It would have been fine because I thought I didn't have enough yarn, and it wasn't exactly what I wanted, but it was fine. And then I was looking for something else in my yarn drawer, and I found another like at least 50 gram ball of the grey. And I was like, oh, I'd already finished. I hadn't woven in my ends, but I'd clipped them. It was done. So if you saw my Instagram stories about a week ago, you would have seen me do this. I decided, I was like, I'm not happy. It was fine, but I would be happier with a different edge on the shawl. So I ripped off the whole I-cord. It's like a 400 stitch I-cord, done the whole bind off, and I pulled it all off. And then what I did was I knit 10 rows of garter stitch and then did the I-cord bind off. And I really, really love how it looks now. So I'm really happy with how the finished product looks. Obviously it was annoying that I had to do it twice, but I mean, when you make a mistake, it's just doing more knitting, and more knitting, it's just more knitting. So knitting's fun, apparently. So that is how I ended up finishing off this shawl. Yeah, I just did 10 rows of garter stitch. I'm still doing the increases on the end and in the center. And yeah, I'm really, really happy with how the shawl looks. I've blocked it, so the drape is really lovely. It's a great size, it's really pretty. If you have mini skeins or leftovers, it really didn't take very much so I used 10 colors for this shawl, so it has like 24 holes. So if you had like a 24, like you could use every color of an advent calendar if you wanted to. But even like the color that I probably use the most of would have been this dark red, because it has the biggest stripe, and I still have heaps of it left. So it's gonna crinkle because they're in a plastic bag. But like I still have like that much of the red, so it's probably like half of it. I still have like 10 grams of that color. So now I just have like these minis, sorry for the shine, and I have all these that I don't know what to do with. I reckon if you had 20 gram minis, you could probably get away with 8, like using each one 3 times. And if you like cycled them through, so you use you're all smart, you can work out what to do. But even if you have just like scrappy leftovers, I think this would be a really great project because you really don't use very much of every contrast color. So yeah, it's a really, really fun project. It's super addictive to knit. It knit up really quickly. You know, normally shawls, it gets to those like final rows where there's so many stitches and it's just an absolute drag. You don't want to, well for me, you don't want to pick it up because like, oh, it's great, but it's going to take me half an hour to do a row. This shawl didn't ever feel like that. Even when the rows did get really long and they took forever, it didn't feel tedious at any point. It was really, really fun to knit. So I highly, highly recommend this pattern. Yeah, the Luminaria shawl, and I love it. It's really, really cute. So yeah, that is all of my finished projects for this week. I do have a couple of projects that I'm working on. So one I kind of picked up and then have put down again. But this, you would have seen it a long time ago. So this is a cardigan that I'm working on. This is the Afield cardigan by Fiona Alice from issue of Pom Pom a couple of years ago. I don't remember which one, but I'll link everything down below as always. So I'm knitting the 3rd size of this pattern. I'll try and move forward a bit so maybe you can, because it's really dark grey yarn, so it's quite hard to see, but it has these textured panels and then garter sections. It's really beautiful, it's big, it's going to be so cozy, and yeah, I'm really excited to have this. I think it'll be a really, really great, versatile, very wearable piece in my wardrobe. I'm knitting it out of Bendigo Woolen Mills, their classic 8-ply. I think this colorway is called Charcoal. It's a really, really dark grey. It actually looks a little bit darker on camera than it is in real life, but it's still like a really beautiful, deep dark grey. And I've knit one sleeve. That's what I've done since you've last seen this project. I think I got to the sleeves kind of at the beginning of, or sometime like in spring, and I just didn't feel like working on a big woolly project and having it like sitting on me at the time. And I thought, you know, I'm not going to be able to wear it for a while, so I'll put it down. I just needed a little bit of where I think all my other projects were at. I didn't really have any kind of not thinking knitting, so I just picked it up and I did one sleeve. They're garter stitch sleeves. I mean, garter stitch in the round is not the most fun thing in the world, but they're really straightforward. It's just a sleeve, a garter stitch sleeve. I did make it slightly longer than the pattern recommended. I got to the length that the pattern had suggested, and when I tried it on, it was like just a little bit, even with the how much, and I think I knit the rib at the end a little bit longer as well. It would have been, and I know that garter will grow with blocking, like it's very stretchy, but I didn't want, with the style of this, it's like an open front, like big cozy kind of cardigan. With this style, I didn't want the sleeves to ever like ride up, you know? So even if they did block out to the length I wanted, like over time they do ride up a little bit. And I wanted, with like how this finished project looks in my mind's eye, I really want the sleeves to be long. So I think, yeah, so I can try it on for you, even though it doesn't have a collar or another sleeve. So even like not blocked, the sleeves are right at my wrist. They're full length sleeves. Like pop it on properly. So many air quotes today. So yeah, the sleeves are like full length. So even like they'll block and probably end up about that long, but then when they ride up, they won't ride up to, I didn't want the sleeves to be like here. That's not the look I was going for. I want nice, long sleeves. So that's the only modification I made, was I just knit like a few extra rows, and I put a little marker there for myself. But yeah, I will eventually, just got to pick up and do this last little bit of the collar and the other sleeve, which won't take very long. I'll do that when the mood strikes me. It's probably another 2 months before it's actually going to be cold enough to wear a nice cozy cardigan. So yeah, I'm not in a hurry to finish it, but I really love it. It's a fantastic pattern. Fiona's designs are all wonderful. I think she's really great. And yeah, it's a great cardigan. I don't have anything else to say, but I really like it. And yeah, it was also really fun to work on, because you have like different textured panels and the garter stitch. So you get like a really cool effect without too much effort. It's just kind of slipped stitches and twisted stitches to make almost like a patchworky effect. I think it could be really cool to do this in like color blocks as well, if you're feeling creative. But yeah, that is the Afield cardigan. And the last project, I literally cast this on a week ago today, because I needed some just plain stockinette to do. I was had some commuting and then just hanging out with people, so I needed something that was just stockinette, not too much thinking. I could have cast on the second sleeve, but this is too big to carry around now. So this is the first piece of the Mystic Square Top by James and Watts, and it's this really cool pattern that it's kind of like it's log cabin style knitting, but you make this really cool top. And he designed it to use in, I think they used Noro yarn, which is like a color changing yarn. I've used Bendigo Woolen Mills Bloom, which is also a color changing yarn. Ooh, almost put my project in my coffee. This colorway is called Olive Grove, so it's just like shades of green, as you can see. So this has worked up so quickly. As I said, I cast it on like last Sunday, and I've already finished the first piece. It's really addictive. It's really fun to knit. So that's the first piece. I've got the second, where'd I put it? Sorry about that. I have cast on the second side, so it is a little bit, I have blocked this piece already, which I did knowing that I would want to show it on the podcast, because it is like stockinette knit flat. It is so curly. Like this side completely curled in, so curly. It does, as you can see, block out. I did have to use, like, I used some food cans along all the edges to like weigh it down as it blocked. Once it's all seamed together and has the hem and everything on, it won't do this. But it doesn't look great in progress, but that's the nature of stockinette fabric. So this is I've picked up like the third section of the other side, and both front and back are the same. So you can kind of, because you'll be using color changing yarn, I guess then you can pick which one you think is prettier to put on the front. So because it's just like it's just shades of green. It's not like the highest like contrast and variety for this style of garment, but I think it looks really cool. And you guys know I love green. So this is it's a great pattern. All of James's patterns are wonderful. So I'm knitting this, I think, in the 4th size on a 4.5mm needle, which I think is what's recommended in the pattern. And yeah, it's really simple, really fun. Once I had done, I knew, like, I've never made anything in this kind of log cabin style construction before, and the way like my brain works, it's really hard if something's written on a page for me to visualize how it's going to work. So like the first time I picked up stitches to like graft on this first side piece, which is this piece, I just couldn't get my head, like, I can read the pattern and I can do what the pattern says, but I can't visualize how it's actually going, the direction of the knitting's going to go until I'm doing it. So I was reading it and I can't visualize how this is going to work. I'm like, hundreds of people have knit this, or like a lot of people have knit this, and theirs all turned out great. Like, so once I've done it and I can see it, then I understand. But there's just like a processing part of my brain that just can't, until I've actually physically done it, I can't visualize how it's going to work. But now that I've visualized it, this like log cabin style of knitting is really fun. I'm like thinking about, maybe do I want to do a log cabin blanket now? Not like a blanket maker at all, but this kind of construction is really fun and really addictive. So yeah, that is the Mystic Square by James and Watts, and yeah, I'm really excited. I think, as you can see, I've already like made pretty good progress, this weird curly thing, pretty good progress on the second side. So I think that will work up really quickly and should have it finished pretty promptly, which is very motivating as well. It's been really good, I think, for my making practice to be like finishing projects quite promptly. It's like very motivating and like making really exciting for me at the moment. So that's everything I have been working on. Share with me in the comments what you're working on at the moment. If there's anything you're wanting to cast on, any yarn you want to use, just tell me about it in the comments below. I hope that anyone else on the east coast of Australia has fared okay with all the crazy weather we've been having. I hope you're all keeping safe and well and doing all the crafting, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye guys.